this movie has an interesting amount of controversy because of what a director said about the movie, which is the fact that this movie is an immigrant story, and a certain group of people got offended by that. Can you imagine being that insecure that you're now boycotting the movie and calling it woke? That is a certain level of embarrassment that I would never display on the internet. We're talking about Superman. Disclaimer, I am not a DC fan. I know shit all about DC Comics. I watched Man of Steel. That's it. Wait a minute, that's not true. I just forgot every movie that I ever watched, apparently. I did watch The Batman, but technically I don't think, and this is why I'm not a big DC fan, because their whole structure was so messed up. I think they're fixing it, but The Batman with Robert Pattinson is technically not a part of the DC cinematic universe. I watched The Penguin first. Weird choice, I know. I thought both were really good. Very different tones from the movie we're talking about today. I do know some Superman lore, like I think each generation has their own version of Superman. This was my version of Superman, but I'm willing to give anything a shot, especially because I really like James Gunn films. I think he has a very stylistic way of directing, and his writing is usually pretty solid. Oh, by the way, I did watch both Suicide Squads. I think I watched the first one by accident. I meant to watch the good one. That one is actually really good, and that one is by James Gunn. So if you have much like expectations in terms of like you really like the Snyderverse, for example, because it's more realistic and more grittier, or if you go into this with like the thoughts, even though I don't know why you would, because the trailers are literally so fucking colorful, but if you're like expecting something like the Batman or the Penguin, you're not getting that here. You're getting flashy, colorful, think Guardians of the Galaxy. You're getting the James Gunn quips. So expect a movie like that. Before I get into spoilers, I think overall this movie, I had, personally, okay, my opinion, I had a great time with it. I think it was a really fun movie. I went by myself, you know, loser. But my theater was actually really packed, and it was packed with a bunch of nerds. I rarely get to go to a movie theater with like actual fans because I live in fucking nowhere. So it was really nice to be in like a room full of people who actually were having fun. Now I will say, yeah, it's not a perfect movie, and there are some issues with it that I found, but I think overall the experience of it, I think it was still really fun. We're getting into spoilers, and I think I will start with sort of like my biggest issues with this movie. My biggest thing that I felt about this movie was that it didn't really feel like a complete movie, and I was trying to wrap my head around like why I was thinking that. I think the reason is it kind of starts out of nowhere. Like it kind of expects you to know the origin story of Superman. I'm fine with just jumping right on into it, right? Like we don't need to have all the backstory of Superman because, like I said, every generation has had their own version of Superman, and I'm pretty sure we kind of, for the most part, majority of audiences already know the backstory of Superman and how he's not from Earth. It's in his name. Like he's literally a man that's super, period, the end. In that sense, we don't really need like a full-on backstory. Like I do not need a whole Smallville story arc to get like deep into it. That's fine. We can just pick up with Clark Kent already at the Daily Planet. We can already pick up with Superman already established in that universe, and like he has his own fans already in that universe. Fine by me. I think the problem is like this story just kind of like picks up right away. He's already been defeated, and it feels like you're just kind of like dropped in. Like it doesn't feel like a fully structured movie where you get the first act, second act, third act. This feels more like you're dropped into the middle of the movie, and then it carries you along the way. It's a James Gunn thing where he kind of likes to do that. Very beginning of the movie, you're dropped into like the middle of the fight. Problem is too, I wouldn't mind that, but you're also trying to revamp a whole new universe. So it's like, what is the James Gunn and is it Peter Safran? What does their version of Superman look like? Because I know what like Henry Cavill's Superman origin story is, but that's not gonna really mesh with what's going on in the new DCU, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of like torn with that. Another thing that kind of ties with it too is Lex Luther, classic supervillain, Jeff Bezos in real life. We kind of already know that there's that tension between the two of them. He kind of completes, you know, the whole hero versus villain story arc. You're kind of like expected to already know that they hate each other, and it's like, but why though? Like Lex Luthor eventually does tell us later in the movie why he hates Superman so much, but it's like, okay, but we never actually get to see, and it's kind of like the show versus tell thing of storytelling where it's like, okay, Lex Luthor is telling us these things, but we don't actually get to see what led to him feeling that way. We just pick up right where Lex Luthor has already tracked every one of Superman's movements, and he's skilled and he's learned on Superman's exact fighting movements, so that when he creates, I think it's Ultraman, he is able to fight him with exact precision because he knows exactly how he's gonna fight. Okay, but what led to that moment? What, like, why do you feel that way? And again, he does explain it, but it just would have been much better storytelling if we've actually seen what led up to that, okay? I'm just saying. And that's the problem with telling a story like Superman, because it's like we've heard it so many times. So part of me is like, I don't want to sit through another Superman origin story and watching him and Lex Luthor build up this like whole enemy relationship yet again. I get why he decided to skip all that, but it does feel like this is more of a setup for the bigger universe to come, because you get a lot of characters in this movie. Certain characters I really enjoyed. This movie definitely goes back to basics with good versus evil. I'll start with like the evil part, Lex Luthor, since I was already talking about him. He is just straight up evil, and he's just straight up a bald-headed villain. I think it's been such a long time since we had a story focused on somebody who is so good combating against somebody who is so evil, and just evil for billionaire evil's sake. Superman is such a strong character in this movie. Lex Luthor is such a strong villain in this movie that I think it actually, that dynamic works out pretty good, and it's still a very enjoyable film, even though I don't normally prefer those archetypes and characters. Lex Luthor, he's a little, for me, even though I said he's a strong villain, I think he's still like a little bit weaker, because again, his motivations, you do kind of like wonder, why are you going to these extremes? He has this deep-seated hatred towards Superman, and he is very like dialogue heavy, as opposed to seeing maybe why he hates Superman so much. I do kind of wish we'd seen a little bit more like just straight up cruelty on his part. I kind of wish we would have seen more action, more direct action from Lex Luthor, as opposed to, because like a lot of the times he's just up in his like Lex Luthor tower and just standing there and like giving orders, which is fine to a certain degree, but I just would have liked to see more villainous actions on his part where he actually carries them out. Counterpart to that, Superman, I think, honestly, probably one, ooh, this might be controversial. One of my favorite Supermans, I think David, it's Cornsfoot? I don't know how to say his last name. He did a really great job, I think, of playing a very charismatic, kind of, I don't want to say dopey, but like, and I don't want to say a himbo either. But kind of like just a very kind person and trying his best. I really enjoyed that characterization of Superman. It kind of does remind me of like back to basics type of Superman. It does feel a little bit more comic booky as opposed to like a Henry Cavill, which is a more serious, more grounded Superman. I feel like he's kind of like in his youthful stage where he's still like getting used to being a Superman and like what it is actually like to be a Superman in this world. I feel like we are going to get more character development with him. And they did give him plenty of like backstory and building up his character, building up his relationship with Lois Lane. I really enjoyed Lois Lane too. Those two had really good on-screen chemistry. Again, you kind of pick up right in the middle of the relationship, so you don't get to actually see them start off as just co-workers and then build up into that relationship. You already pick up as them being a couple, sort of like a hidden secret couple, but you do get scenes where they're pushing back against each other, and I think they have really good chemistry in those scenes, like the interview scene. I kind of wish we would have seen more of those two together, and I feel like Lois Lane's character, they did make her a very strong character. A lot of times in a universe like this, because you have a lot of superheroes, period, a lot of like the human characters tend to get overshadowed or like don't have a lot to do. Lois Lane's character, they gave her enough to do. She's a journalist. We love her journalist, okay? She was giving Gal Weathers and like trying to pursue the truth and uncover like what Lex Luthor's role is in this entire conflict, which the conflict is kind of like a basic country wants to take over another country, and then of course America's getting involved, and then there's also superheroes. You know, having her character uncover all of this was a great way to utilize her. The only thing is, like, towards the end, like the whole journalist team, there's also another, I think Jimmy is his name, there's like a whole journalist team. They kind of don't really have anywhere to go at the end. They're just they kind of go in a spaceship, and then they upload the files to, you know, like the internet, and then after that they're just kind of like in the spaceship. Towards the very end it was like, We're just gonna sit up here, I guess. So they also introduce the Justice Group or whatever they want to call themselves. I'm actually surprised they got as much screen time as they did because I really thought they were going to be more cameo appearances because Nathan Fillion normally does cameo appearances for James Gunn. So I figured we're not going to get a lot from him, which we didn't. But there was a lot more play from like Mr. Terrific than I thought we were actually gonna get. This might be because I'm ignorant and I don't know a lot about DC Comics. But one thing I did like about this movie is that we did get to see like a variety of power sets that I don't think I've ever seen before. So like Mr. Terrific, I don't really know what his power set is, but it was cool. I guess he's like a technology guy, but he has like these balls that float around. I liked watching whatever his power was or like whatever he does. I enjoyed watching it. And I think his character really helped with toning it down a little bit sometimes with like the quips and the comedy. He might have been like the only serious character. The other one that I really liked too was the elemental dude that ends up getting locked in with Superman and then has to create kryptonite. Never seen a power set like that before. Again, could just be me, not because I don't know comics too well. And I really enjoyed watching whatever the hell that was. Like the whole like pocket dimension thing. I had no clue what was going on the entire time. God damn it, I had a good time. Kind of like Doctor Strange where you're like going through those different dimensions and portals and you're like, what am I even looking at? It's like one of those situations. So I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at, but I'm having fun. But the elemental guy, I really liked his character too. But back to like the Justice Group, I think because we ended up getting them more than like a cameo appearance, we still didn't get a lot from there, especially like Hawk. I think her, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Hawk Girl. The girl who looks like a hawk. She did not get a lot of development or screen time. Nathan Fillion's character also didn't get too much development either. They also like introduce Rick Flag's data. So you get a lot of like these characters being introduced. A lot of this movie does feel kind of like set up, in which case I kind of feel like I have an incomplete opinion about it. But movies should be able to stand on their own. So in that sense, I do have the criticism that it does feel like there's too many characters. But I mean, the ones that do matter, they do handle them pretty well. Like the important characters are handled pretty well. And then the actual plot of the movie, it is back to basics, hero versus villain. You have Lex Luther who hates Superman so much that he's willing to create pocket dimensions and tears in realities and willing to cause mayhem and wreak havoc on the city that he also lives in, by the way. Superman, I do like that he does. And I know this is probably going to be like an issue that people do have with this movie, is that Superman gets beaten up way too much. I don't mind it. It does help that who he was fighting was his actual clone. And again, like the clone did kind of come out of nowhere. Like I wish we would have seen, I don't know, like Lex Luthor building his clone. This is just like a storytelling thing, by the way. This is like, for me, I like a very well written, tight story. So I was like, I would have preferred to see how Lex Luthor created the clone. That's just a me thing. It's not really necessary for the movie. And I didn't mind that it was a clone either. Sometimes I feel like whenever you clone people, it's like a cheap way out. But I feel like with this, it does showcase the clone is what Superman could be if he wasn't kind, if he wasn't good, if he didn't have a soul, you know, like that's what could happen. And I feel like the only reason why we've been seeing Superman getting beaten up this entire time is because he is not an outright brutal machine. Even though he could be, right? He still has morals, and that's what causes him to pull his punches. That's what causes him to protect people over outright killing the villain. Whereas the clone, complete opposite, he's just a killing machine and does whatever Lex Luthor says. That's why he's able to defeat Superman so easily. So I don't mind. I know a lot of people probably have issues with watching very opening of the movie, Superman's beat up. Throughout the movie he gets beat up. Fine by me. Now another character I will like to talk about that I just remembered is Krypto the Dog. I am kind of getting tired of animal sidekicks. The reason why, okay, calm down for a second. I'm taking a lot of marketing classes right now, so you can kind of see where studios, why there's so many babies and animals in their movies is because it's a way to market their movie and it's a way to sell merchandise. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it like all cutesy, and Krypto certainly is like, he's a cute little dog, but he's also a little shit. I'm glad that he's not like an outright good boy. He's kind of a little shit, and that does play into the story. He has more personality than normally studios would give animals, because again, a lot of studios just consider animals and babies as a selling point. This dog felt more like an actual character in the movie. I think that's pretty much it with the characters that I want to cover. Another thing I want to point out too, if I seen this movie when I was younger, the most unbelievable thing about this movie would be how quickly people turn on Superman and how the media plays into that with like shifting the narrative like that. Oh, we love Superman, we stan Superman, and then it's like, oh, a video gets released and it's like, oh no, that's real proof. How do we know? It's real, just trust me. Now we hate Superman. And then a 180. Oh, Lex Luthor's now the bad guy. How do we know that's real? We just know. Just trust me. It's real. The amount of like 180s going on in the media in this world. Previously, I would have been like, that is the most unrealistic shit part of this movie. Now watching it, I'm like, yep. Yeah. That's how the media do. But I think the biggest thing that this story, the messaging behind this story, is that it is a story about kindness and it is a story about humanity. As much as I like a dark story, media nowadays have been focusing on what is it like for morally gray characters or for people with bad intentions to have superpowers. And I love that. But I also do like looking at what is it like for somebody who is just pure good to have superpowers and how they protect humanity. And this is coming from somebody who, again, prefers to have more darker, more serious, and more grounded movies and stories. I still think that this movie provides enough fun and entertainment and joy that even with like my issues with this movie, I still think it's still a very good movie. Like, it's not a bad movie at all in my opinion. And I still think there's a lot to take away from it and there's a lot of fun to be had with it. I'm shrinking the more I swear I hate this chair. I will say people who didn't like this movie or think that it's too fun, too quippy. It is. It's very quippy. It's very, like I said, very James Gunny. Surprisingly not because James Gunn has a sick sense of humor. This movie feels like a PG version of a James Gunn movie where it doesn't quite go that far with it. It's still it is very family friendly. I still think this is a good first entry and that we're probably gonna build upon this. So it might not always be this flashy and fun and colorful. So yeah. That's it. A lot of thoughts and opinions about this movie. I know probably a lot of people are gonna love it, or they're gonna hate it, or they're gonna think it's just a middling movie. I'm kind of like, I'm in that tier between loving it and middling. It's more plot issues and character issues, and again, it's just like we're not building enough on these characters, introducing too many characters, and that this movie is just a starting point for building up a larger universe, and you can kind of feel that. It doesn't feel like its own contained story, and some of the character motivations I wish we could see more of. It is very telly and not showy with certain characters, a la Lex Luther. There are certain issues like that I had with it, but I also think there's a lot that's going great for it. Characters like Superman, I really enjoyed Lois Lane and his relationship. I really enjoy like the universe they're setting up, and I just love the messaging behind this movie where it's preaching about kindness, but it's not over the top, and it's something that people need to be reminded more of. It's a great family fun type of movie. So yeah, that's gonna be it for my review of this movie. If you liked this movie, leave a comment. If you didn't like this movie, leave a comment. So if you enjoyed, please leave a like and leave one of them comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to. I don't know. You might be finding some cool things on this channel. I don't know. Goodbye, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have a nice life and be kind.